Good day, YouTubers, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from all around the world. Here we are planking again. So, we had got down to this point, and then they wanted us to start going down below after we got that hatch cover on. So, counted down about 6 layers before you start to see it sweep up and dead into the place where we left off 2 weeks ago. And all those pieces that are 6 layers deep are tapered on the end until we get to the 7th one. And then the 7th one, 8th and 9th, you can see the 9th there is a little tapered, but they're bringing them all up based on the bend. So what I've done was bring the first 6 down onto this rib that's second from the keel line. And then I put one in there that's just tacked in place to use as a placeholder until I get the rest of it filled in below those 6. So there's actually 12 altogether before you get to the place where a full board is used again toward the front. So if you guys can see that, you'll understand what I'm doing here. And now on the other end of the ship, there's a few that are tapered also as we get down near this same level. So let me turn the lights back on. Give you a representation of what we've got here. So on the stern, there's a couple boards there that are tapered, so that there isn't a bend space opening as you lay them on there, because they want to create an opening as you lay them on there. If you don't, you got to take some off. So you can see that those 2 there got took off quite a bit. And then as we get near the front here, I bet you my zoom is still in, isn't it? That's better. So as you get near the front here, you can see this is the placeholder. It's not glued on, it's just tacked in there. And that represents that full board coming up before we go 8, 9, and 10 to meet the point of the keel. And these are the first 6. And then I glued together a little set of planks that are 6 wide, so I can use them as a reference. Because as I went lower, I wanted to make sure I had the right spacing before I get to this full board where it changes. So as a reference line, I know that now the next boards that I lay here have to get tapered on the ends and bent. And I've got one that I just pre-soaked. I haven't put the heat to it yet. And this will be the bottom one. It'll go up in there like that. And then there'll be another one here that's going to have that same kind of face cut to taper in. and then another one below it until we get to the 6 to fill up this opening here. So you can see that those were tough between the shaping of the taper and the bending to get that right. And before I started, I bent up a whole bunch with this profile on them, because when we started we were way up here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 full boards before we start doing the cuts and the tapers. So I got 4 more for the other side when we start going down on it that are already bent. So as you can see, this is the toughest part of following the directions. The counting of the boards and where they end at compared to the keel line. We're trying to make them end in this area here. And I think I'm right on the money as far as the plans go. But the more boards I put on, the more it's going to push me back. As long as I get the bends right and the taper right and enough glue on them where they stay in there good, I think we'll be okay. Because all this will get sanded later on. So as by the pins, you can see there's been a lot of boards put on so far. And we get to this point where we're having a tough time again. So one of my tactics to create this taper effect here before I bent them was to take a full board, mark the board where the taper stops at, and then I would bring the board over here to the bench, and supposedly that's where the mark is, with that mark on it. And using another board beside it, I could lay, based on where that mark is, I could lay a ruler on here and scribe that board with a pencil mark. So it gives me a nice long taper point there that I'm going to heat up and bend into that spot that I need. So then I was taking the clamp, clamping it down so it doesn't move on this end, using a fresh blade in the big X-Acto knife, and follow that line a few times till that piece falls off. And there's 4 of them laying there that we did earlier. And then sand it up if it needs any sanding based on the roughness of the cut. And then get it wet, heat it up, and bend it. The bend is usually longer than the taper, because the bend will start way up here somewhere, but the taper starts about here. So I'll get the bend in the right spot all the way down, and then tack and glue it. I've already pulled some of the tacks out in this area here because I want to be able to get in there with the new boards without something in my way. All that I did yesterday, and today I'm back on it after that it's dried. So as you can see, this is the tough part of planking, and we want to try to do it as close to what they call for here in the plans. And there's another good representation of what we're trying to do. The way they're dead ending, full board's dead ending into the horizontal ones at almost a 45-degree angle. And then a whole bunch of little skinny tapered ends that are coming in to fill that void. So we are getting it. They're hugging the frames really good. I think we'll be okay. In the meantime, I'm always doing something else too, right? Well, I got some old Belimo damper actuators. These are used to remotely control a damper in an air handling system or ductwork. And when you put power on this thing, 24 volts DC, it will move 90 degrees. And you can stick a shaft in there and clamp down on it and then put a damper paddle, or in this case we're going to put a pulley or a sheave on it, on the shaft, and let that pull on a rope tied to the sheave to open and close the chicken door on both of our chicken doors. So we got a little 24 volt 110 volt to 24 volt DC power supply and a relay that we'll use to turn on with a photo eye. So whenever the sun goes down or comes up, the photo eye will turn this relay on, and the relay will make the damper move with the low voltage signal. And the damper is going to turn enough to open the chicken door, and then close it again when it gets dark. And the tomatoes, cabbage and kale, and everything is booming out here now. Green beans, sunflowers are coming up. Now I haven't told you, this is these big things in the back is asparagus. And the asparagus, after a couple years, will shoot up asparagus shoots, and you can eat them. But it takes a couple years before you can start harvesting asparagus spears. So down in here, oh yeah, we got some squash coming up on the squash plants. This watermelon, cabbage, green beans, and split peas. Just going crazy in that. Only takes a couple weeks and you start to see a big change. So I finished off the back of the chicken coop and totally enclosed it all the way around. Got some rat wire in the opening so possums or raccoons can't climb in there, but that gives me venting so I get good airflow. I'm gonna have rat wire at the bottom too, all the way around to keep stuff from digging in underneath, but that'll give me venting so I get good airflow. And we got the ridge cap on to close off that ridge from the rain, and I made some little spacers out of 1/2-inch PVC pipe to raise that up a little bit, so we got a gap there for airflow. And these are where the chicken doors will go, one on each side, and we'll mount that actuator up in the middle, and that sheave that's on the actuator will turn and pull the chicken door up on both sides at the same time. And if you only want one side to come up, you can unhook the rope, but we'll use little pulleys And as that shift turns, a rope tied to it would go down using little pulleys to pull the door up and down, and do the same thing over here. So that's just a little bit of ingenuity engineering. Another thing I got to do is take some of this metal screen and regular screen and all the little teeny gaps that are around will screen with regular screen to keep the mosquitoes out. This will get rat wire too, but we'll probably put regular screen over it. But the rat wire will protect it from predators, and the regular screen will close in all the little gaps everywhere for keeping the mosquitoes out. You don't want mosquitoes eating their chickens up. So we'll do some more filming here in a little while, but I'm going to give you this update this week. What we got done on the planking. Plank away. Got her all glued up. Now it's time to get brave. Got to get her up in there so this spot here will mate up. I don't know if that'll stay in there or not. Hopefully it isn't going to matter too much, because I'm pretty sure we'll be planking over this with the real thin boards. And I was thinking, because that gap is so wide there, to do this one next up here, and then this other skinnier one up in there. But I think I need to sand a little off of that bottom part there. It's a fine line. Yeah, that should work there. No, we're going to put this one on top, aren't we? Yes. Then the skinny one will go in there. Maybe we'll make another one for that that's a little fatter. To get the general idea, I'll have to clean some of this glue off here in a minute. Be a little dab up in there. It's easy to get too picky. Just put the pins to it. Keep on going. Ooh. So there's a casualty of war. You can see how that board split. I don't know if we can salvage that or not. Let's go with a new pin into the next frame. See if we can put some pressure forward on that. No, it's going to want to bow up on us. Got to hold it in that one spot. Then we'll get another one. Up there. That's okay on the end. But the further along you go, man, we got another crack in that board. That's a defective board. We're going to pull that out. Even though we spent all that time shaping it. It's not worth. It's an example of failure. And because I got to shape a new board, let's see if this one will. Yeah, that one will work there. So we'll add some glue where we just wiped it off. Try it again. And sort of jam it into that slot. The skinnier your board gets, the more you're going to have that problem. Oop. I've been using a lot of these pins over and over again. Main thing is just to get it to hold down while your glue dries. And get enough glue in there, you're not going to ever have it come off. That's good there. Okay, so that worked, but we're going to make some new boards now because we used up the 3 we made. That little hump will get sanded off. I might even use the orbital sander on this once I get all these pins out of the way and the rest of the planking in. So let's check our gauge here. Yep, up to the 4 mark. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're right on the money, so we should be good. We'll just keep filling in, but we got to create a bunch more with the taper starting in this area. It's time we do 4 more boards. We got to be able to close this up. Thanks for watching.